Hey everybody, it's Marty, the JavaScript party. My buddy Rhett. Hey Rhett, how you doing? That's a big kiss to all of you from Rhett. She is happy to be here today. She only got to do one video yesterday because she just went crazy at the end of yesterday's video. I don't think she likes unit testing, if I'm being completely honest. I think she enjoys seeing these. She watches, right? Like she's watching right now, and she enjoys seeing stuff like this. And I don't think she enjoys seeing this as much. I think she likes this. She probably likes the colors, but then as we click in, it gets a little bit less colorful, a little bit less interesting to her. Um, she watches TV with us all the time, and she like sometimes me and my wife went through like kind of a phase where we'd sit in the living room and read. Oh, that would tick her off, because she's just like, "What the heck? We're watching TV." But anyways, I think this looks good though. Like this looks really, really good. And yesterday we had a huge breakthrough on unit tests and everything, and it's kind of like, man, unit tests are fun. They're a lot of fun. They're really cool. They're especially if you're not under a lot of pressure. If you're under pressure, unit tests can be really, really frustrating. And then unit tests in a so unit tests when you're working on them locally can be frustrating and a little intense, but they can also be fun and you can learn a lot. But then, like when you work in a CI/CD, a continuous integration, continuous development kind of environment, they're a nightmare. They can be an absolute nightmare because you invariably end up with the situation where um, it works locally, but it won't work in the CI/CD, or it works in the CI/CD, but it won't work locally. So now everybody's pulling it down. All your tests are failing locally, but they worked in the CI/CD, or it worked for one branch, worked for the other branch. You merged the two branches, and now it doesn't work in dev, um, or in the whatever your main branch is that you guys all kind of put stage code into. So it's kind of you know it it's weird. I feel like the jury's really out on unit tests. I do think that the industry's kind of going against them right now. Um, I know, like where I work, we have like one sort of absolute out in the open evangelist for unit tests. We have one, I think, closet evangelist. Like he really likes them. He likes the whole idea, and he just loves the idea of like us having like a gate that would prevent us from being able to push things without certain unit test coverage. But he doesn't want to come out into the open about it. And then I think we have like um, 4 or 5 people that just don't know anything about it. They haven't had any exposure, so they haven't really made a decision. And then we have some people that just really don't like it. Um, and I definitely don't know where I stand. I just don't know, especially in a professional environment. I have enjoyed this, but the thing is it has absorbed the whole project, right? That this is really what we focus on now. One place I worked, we had to have 80% unit test coverage, and I honestly 9 out of 10 hours that I spent coding, I was doing unit tests, and only 1 in 10 were actual um, work, and it was mostly because like I wasn't doing like just certain changes would happen, and then all of a sudden it would be broken, and then now someone's branch can't get through, and I need to figure it out for them because I was really good at that. But anyways, the jury's still out. We're still kind of contemplating. I love this code so much better. I don't know, like for everybody, if this sort of abstraction where we call it for each and we just pass it in this function, if this sort of abstraction is helpful or not helpful. Like I've seen this so many times that I don't know if it's just like gibberish to other developers, or if like one of the problems with being a computer programmer and becoming like pretty proficient in it is you sort of lose like the ability to empathize with other developers that are coming up and they don't understand something, like something is just blind to them. something stands out to you, and then it just stands out, and now you but it's not clear to other people. And so I think that um, I don't know. I don't know if this, to me, this is just as clear as day. You know, I have a for each function, and I pass it a function for it to run. And I don't, this function doesn't need any sort of um, scoping, but if it did, I would do a bind this, but there's that. So I didn't really know off the top of my head exactly how to unit test this thing, but apparently it's pretty straightforward according to our good buddy ChatGPT. Um, so it looks like what we want to do is we want to that's so funny. I don't think that name of that is right. Um, we want to create probably a brand new test. So, and I think it just, we want it to, um, I guess maybe that is, should set the style of the visualization. You know what? That is a good name. Um, and see, I think this is kind of what makes it so hard for ChatGPT. Like, it had to be sort of creative. Like, it had to kind of look at these different elements and then kind of put this sentence together. And then oh, I hate how I did that. How I have periods and I have a period but not a capital letter at the beginning. I don't really like that. Um, I wonder if that is OCD or not. And I wish there was some word that, like, I I guess we shouldn't add the D. Is that OC? Is that obsessive compulsive, or is there a good reason to not have a period there? And I think there's a good reason to not have a period there unless you're going to have a capital there, because that is your way of communicating that this is a full, complete sentence that should make sense on its own. I think that that's what you're trying to communicate to other human beings when you put a capital letter and a period. One period and one and not a capital is kind of like you're not saying anything. You're kind of just throwing up noise. Um, so it may be obsessive compulsive, or it could be just, you know, not. It's just being polite. You know, just not being rude to your fellow developers. But anyways, I do like this sentence. I like this name. Should set the position style, because that's really all it's doing. Is it's trying to. This function is trying to take a item, an element, a DOM element, and it's trying to set its position. Now, let's take a step back. None of that has anything to do with ThreeJS or visualizations or the concepts of visualizations or anything like that. It's fascinating to me, right? Like, it is absolutely fascinating to me. So yeah, no, it's recreationally fun for me to write this unit test. Is it in everybody's best interest? I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe I don't know. I just don't know. So this is one of those things where it's like sometimes you do certain things, and like, for example, I used to, like, for many years, for maybe even decades, if you looked at my code that I would turn in, um, what you would see something like this, like let a equals 1, and then maybe so let b equal 2, and then maybe let c equal 3, and then let d, or let t equal 6, right? And console log, and then whatever, like it would be like that, like I would, that was because I'm like, what does it matter? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. But then, like that just like okay, so it does look unprofessional, but again, who cares? Um, but it like really bothers a lot of people. Like a lot of people are really bothered, and so they like, and then they have linters that will prevent this and stuff, and maybe, and so a lot of linters will automatically fix stuff like this. But the thing is I don't do that anymore. As you can see, I align everything, I make it all look nice and pretty and all that. And the point is, but the thing is it doesn't take me any more time. Like once I got in the habit of putting everything all aligned, there's zero time, and then it does save me some time on other things. So something that I changed in my coding style that over time has become to where it actually doesn't take me any more time to do. Like I worked at one place where we had a linter, and if you had a space there, it would, the linter would fail, um, and you wouldn't be able to check your code in. You wouldn't be able to push your code. I don't think you could even commit your code. Um, so it was just kind of like I've gotten in the habit of not having like a blank line there. Right now, if I make one, and it doesn't take me any time. That one doesn't save me any time, but it doesn't take me any time. Then other having everything all lined up and all that does, in fact, save me time. One place I worked, like that would have been a linting fail, and then they would want that. That would be what you want to do. And doing it like that doesn't take any more time if you're in the habit, and it doesn't. Um, and it doesn't. And it can speed things up. And it did point out that something, I'm like, why am I not using the new hash value? And this is supposed to be that. And I don't know why. So ChatGPT doesn't like doing this. It doesn't like having names, and that it wants to use it directly. Use the value. I find that this like is English. It's saying expect new hash equal to be equal to expected hash. Probably makes sense to add value there, right? So then that is like a nice clean English test. Hit save, make sure we still have, make sure we didn't somehow accidentally break it. And I don't know why it didn't actually make me new tests. So that makes me nervous. So let me hit reload, and that forces a rerun. And for some reason, it's skipping one test. Or maybe that, oh, okay, this test doesn't have any assertions to check. So this, I believe this expect is a word called an assertion. And assert is a very special word for me because it was a word that I learned about that opened a whole world of how you can tell what kind of background most people come from based on what they think certain words mean. And assert happens to be one of those words. If you think assert is to take something and let it be itself in a new environment, then you come from one background. But if you think that assert means to put something into something else and then try to do that in try to emulate how that is. So like if you were to tell some people, oh, you're a salesman, but we need help in the warehouse, so we'd like you to go in there and assert yourself. Then the salesman, if he sees it one way, he might think he needs to go in and start buying donuts for everybody, start kind of becoming friends with everybody, and let everybody sort of, build a camaraderie and try to encourage them to want to do certain things and all that. That would be one kind of assert, because he's being a salesman in a warehouse environment. But someone else might think, oh, okay, I need to go in there and see what the other warehouse guys do, and try to sort of mimic them and try to do the same thing. And that would be somebody from a whole different kind of environment. And the standardized tests and all that use that information in order to sort of control the types of people. Like they want like a special mix of different types of people together in hopes of creating, like a magical year, and so, and assert was the very beginning of all that, and there's thousands of words like that in our language that sort of help you define who you are in the world and help people understand who you are in the world. So that is good to know. So anyways, ChatGPT made me this test, so let's go. The first thing we do is we mock this element. So this is just an object, and we are actually, I don't know if the right word is coercing it, but we are forcing. So I guess coerce is another, sometimes a synonym for force, but we're forcing TypeScript to acknowledge that this is a mock element, even though it is not a mock element. And you have to, as of, I don't know, about 5 years ago, you had to go from, you couldn't just say, hey, you're an HTML. You had to like coerce it into unknown, and then you could make it an HTML div element. So this is something that, like, if you work on an older version of Angular that uses an older version of TypeScript, you probably don't need. But I think, and see, it looks like you don't even need it in this. Let's see if it compiles. It looks like you don't even need it in this, but you would, I'm confident, would need it if I put that in the Angular application itself, I would need that. Now I don't know, like, it's probably in, this is one of those things. Like, normally I don't like to add something like that if it's not needed, because it can be confusing. But does it help? Does it, like, that's how they're going to need to do it in the application. So I don't know what to think on that. And then so now we are going to take we're going to create a mock ST visualization, and we're going to force TypeScript into accepting it as a mock, as a ST visualization, even though both of these are woefully incomplete. Now, we do not have ST visualization imported, so yeah, I was hoping to get the blue one. The blue one is usually the good one, although sometimes all it's willing to do is just delete it for you, which is, I don't know that has ever been the right answer in the history of mankind. I don't know why they even offer that answer. That's such a weird answer. So now, theoretically, this should work. Wait, component. I don't know where component comes from. I don't think we have component. I think it's supposed to be service set position. Yeah, component doesn't exist. Service. And I'll tell you, you can just go down a rabbit hole of trying to understand why would it get that wrong. But I guess most things are doing that. I guess it's expecting this function, the set position, to be inside of a component. So now what I should get, let's see if we run this, we still don't have an assertion. So let's see, is expect, or are the lines with expect in them assertions? Yep. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I thought. So in theory now, hopefully, we have a better, man, right? Being quiet today. I probably just poked the bear. Okay, so it may not have run. So I'm hoping that it didn't run, because it seems like that should have been called. even though there's no test there. Okay, yeah, and that covered that. And so now let's add our assertion. Assertion. Okay, that's a different one. Now, I used to work at that one place that required the 80% coverage. Those it, so basically the team we worked with, they were from the Dominican Republic, and there are cultural differences between the United States and the Dominican. And they really always were trying to create bottlenecks. Like that was a constant, just that was one of the constant sources of stress between culturally between the onshore team and the offshore team, is they were generally trying to create some document or something on their local machine that would have all the information in it, and then you would have to go to them and say, okay, what are we supposed to work on? And we were constantly trying to like distribute information. We'd be constantly like, okay, let's just put that on an open drive. Okay, let's just create this. Let's just do that. And it was just a constant source. But one of the things that they loved to do is they had linters, and they used that their architects used. They had a couple, like they had 3 people that were architects. There was a team of like, I don't know, 30 people probably, and the 3 of them were architects. And the 3 architects would run this linter, and then if it failed the linter, they would just copy whatever the linter said and say, you need to fix this. And they usually had no idea what it even meant. That was such a pain in the butt. It's so funny. I guess I'm reminiscing about all this stuff now because I haven't studied paralegal in 2 days. I took yesterday off and today off, and so that's funny. So I have two assertions, and I'm expecting these things to be tested, to be placed properly. And I don't think they're running on their own. But what I should see is this little guy turn, instead of being a muted gray, it should be green. So, boom, 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 boom. Yep. So that's good. That's really good. We have this. We have 100% coverage here, so we can feel good about that. Our parents would be so proud. We got our special good grades from the system. The system has told our parents that we are worthy children, so thank you, system. Now let's move up. Oh no. What are we gonna do with this guy here? Everyone else can do it. What's your problem? App service visualization. Branches, really? 50%? Oh. But anyways, yeah. So we need to figure this one out. So let's click in there and see if there's anything obvious. So this one doesn't get called at all, which that's probably, I think we aren't actually using that function anywhere in the application. And then we never get to calculate this position. So calls is to wide, which is private. One thing we did want to try was to make reset hash private. But anyways, calculate positions, part of that isn't getting called, and this guy's not getting called at all. So this one should end up being dirt easy to fix. Yeah, see, that's the only one. So that one's going to be super simple. So we're literally just going to call that, and then it's going to return whatever the visualization IDs are. So that is good. And this one will probably be a little trickier. And now that we look at this and basically that last experience that we had, this probably should be its own function, right? Like we haven't done a deep analysis, but we can probably be pretty sure that this needs to be its own function. And then it might make sense for these two to be functions or something like that, like the is too wide to be its own function. I don't know. But anyway, so I think that probably would be the very first thing I do is, once we fix this guy, which should be super simple, pull everything here out. And then, hopefully it'll be a lot easier to force this row thing to get implemented. I think, who knows? We might have to mock is too wide to return a true to get that to happen. I mean, this is going to be pretty simple. And fortunately, this is another one that is, I don't see, oh no, so we might have an issue with this. We'll have to cross that bridge, but we may need to, it might make sense to pass these values into the function to the for each function, or it might make sense to bind it. And then, and so those, I guess that is the interesting question, right? Because we were talking about context, right? So over here, and it kind of gave us, okay, how we could bind it. So when we go back to the subject of context, there's another thing, right? That is a question is like, how do you pass arguments? And I think there's another thing. So back to the subject of context. If you decide that you don't want context, then want to bind the context, then pass arguments in. To the function. Question mark. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think. Okay, so I don't know what that's going to do for you. So let's go back. See, I want to get the width and that. Oh, but there's. Why did I use this? Why did I even use this? Oh, I'm not. Oh, this viewport width. Okay, so. So again, I would not do this. Oh, I don't like how this I is there. But anyways, I think what I need to do, so yeah, the viewport width is part of the visualization, is part of the overall application, the overall system. And so this function, this calculate position function, is not pure because it has this. It's dependent on this guy right here. It would be better if it wasn't. So like some of the things that could be done is like um, I could like add an optional parameter to the viz object and then just throw called viewport with, and then just toss it on there, and then it'll come in with that viz object, and the viz object will then know what the viewport width is. But then it's like, if the viewport width changes, I have to probably make sure that I fix that. Because if I end up deciding to use that viewport width in some other part of the application, then I have like a state maintenance sort of disaster. Anyways, that is for another time. This video, I'm sure, is, yeah, it's like 30 minutes. It's not terrible. But again, like, great time. I had a fantastic time doing unit tests. I am not doing any, we aren't doing any visualizations. We're not thinking about visualizations. We're not spending any mental cycles on visualizations. We're not, like, we could have easily had these randomized so that sometimes they're different kinds of shapes and stuff. And, there's like a lot of really cool, fun things we could have been doing. But instead, we were doing cool, fun unit testing, which has, and I've learned a lot. It's been really, really useful. But, and like, you can just get deeper and deeper into that. And I don't know, I really don't know. I'm really struggling at just the deepest parts of me with that. I don't know exactly what to do. And I definitely want, like, when I change this, I want it to update automatically. That is definitely something that I really, really want done before I move on. But anyways, that is that for the space and time. I'm going to do another video here shortly about the voice. Voice I'm not doing unit tests on, and we are fully focused on the voice API and how it works, and playing around with different languages and stuff like that. And I kind of feel like we kind of have two projects that are going in parallel. And one thing to be, I don't know if you noticed this, but they're about the same number of videos. So I've put about the same amount of work into both. And I feel like that voice project is so much farther along and so much closer to being done. And than this one. Now, this one, to be fair, is not, there's no intention for it to ever be done. It doesn't, it's purposely, it's a project that's purposely designed to be open-ended so that I can just keep building on and trying different things and stuff like that. Like, the sky's the limit with the visualization, whereas the voice, it is a fairly closed loop. Like, it'll be done. There'll be a point where it's just like, okay, this thing's done. I'm going to deploy this somewhere, and maybe at that point, I'm thinking I want to make a say hello. That'd be the first one. Say hello, and then have all the different languages, that maybe like 100 different languages that you can try to say hello in. So like yesterday I learned how to say hello in Japanese, which I think I've already forgot how to do it. And I found out that I was mispronouncing it, and then I found out later on that evening at dinner that apparently a lot of people mispronounce it that way, and it's because a lot of Americans that read Japanese literature mispronounce it, and we've all kind of we've all kind of gone down that road of, we've all like messed each other up. But it's pretty neat. It's a really neat little API. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.